Welcome back to the Revamp Podcast. Super excited today to have the one and only Flip Daddy, Delco King of Flippin'.
All right.
Evan Zaremba. Happy to have you on, man.
Hey, man. Thank you. Glad to be here. Wonderful to be. Hey, can I tell you a quick story?
Of course you can.
So before I came over here, I was in West Philly at one of my going to one of my flips, and I'm driving down the street and I see this lady jump into the back of a pickup truck, and I'm at a light, and she's like a block ahead. She jumps into the back of this pickup truck, and these two dogs are chasing her. That's why she went into the pickup truck.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And these are like not nice dogs. These are like vicious.
If they're chasing her, I assume they're not nice.
Yeah, they look like I don't know if they were like they were probably like some kind of like pit mix or something like that, pit mutt type dogs. And she's in this back of her pickup truck with a small dog, which is probably why they were chasing her. She was probably like protecting her own dog. So I'm like, oh dear, what is going on? I'm like, I pull out my phone. I'm like, this is a perfect recording moment. And so I'm like,
you had that moment. You're like, I could be the hero or I could record.
So I'm like recording, and I get like, and like 2 seconds later, I'm like, no, she actually might need real help here. I'm like, let me stop recording. So I pull up, and I'm on the right side of the street. She's on the left side of the street in the back of the pickup truck. She's in like a PGW like pickup truck. It wasn't. I'm pretty sure it wasn't hers. So these other dudes, they must have like pulled around the corner, or they must have seen it, because they were like right behind me. They zoom in right next to where the truck is, because it's on the other side of it. And they I guess they didn't care. They were trying to help her too. So they're like yelling, they're like coming through the window. We got you. You know, like
God.
They were like trying to help her. And these dogs are, they're kind of like starting to calm down a little bit, like stop like barking viciously. And so they kind of start walking away. Well, they walk down the block. And the first house that they get to on the block, there's like a little gap. You know how like
a little like breezeway between the buildings or something, you mean?
No. You know how like in Philly, like sometimes like houses were torn down.
Oh yeah.
Like a long time ago, they were demoed. So there's like probably like 3 lots, 2 or 3 lots before they get to the house. So I see the dog walk up up the stairs to the front porch, and this dude is standing out there, and he has a little dog out there. And I didn't know if they were his dogs or what was going on. I didn't know the relationship. He picks up this like 2x4 or bat or like this long ass piece of wood, and goes crack on the dog's head.
No way.
Dude, and I was like, oh no, this is not good. So I'm like, I call 911 at this point, because like, these dogs.
But you said there were 2 dogs, though.
There were 2 dogs. Well, one of them went up on the porch.
Okay.
Right, and the other one was just like still on the block. So I call 911 and I tell them like there's these dogs that are like chasing people, and you know, hopefully the police don't get there. You know, they may or may not come.
Yep.
But whatever. So this guy cracks his dog. This dog goes like starts whimpering, and then comes down. And the dog, I think the dog was okay, but he like hit it pretty hard. And then the dogs like kind of like walk away at this point.
Huh.
And I circled around the block to see, because I'm like if there's like kids around, like this is like not a good situation. Yeah. And I was like, all right, well, they went back into this like little abandoned like park. And at this point I'm like, all right, it seems like everybody's out of harm's way at this point. So hopefully the police come, and hopefully the dogs stop bothering people.
So there we go. Flip Daddy was the hero of the day.
Well, I don't know about that.
Oh no, that's the way I heard it.
I mean, I watched the situation. I didn't really do much.
That's crazy though, man. It's always an adventure.
Dude, it was nuts. I'm like, how does this happen? Oh man,
wild, wild, and that's probably one of the least wild things that is going to happen in the city of Philadelphia today.
Probably.
Yeah.
One time I was a hero. This is like probably 15 years ago. I had this house and it was in a really bad section of Chester, and like I used to say, like I when I first started doing real estate, I didn't know what I was doing. I had some things, but like I bought the worst houses in the worst areas. Not just like in a bad like all right, Chester, blah blah blah. Well, not all of Chester is bad.
Yep.
But there's some particular neighborhoods that are like known
wanna
to
go
be
there.
bad, and
Yeah.
and like especially like back more recently they've I think and he was on my podcast, Nasir.
Yeah.
He had helped reduce like gun violence and murder and stuff. Like he's helped like reduce all kinds of violence. So now it's not what it used to be. But like 15 years ago, it was like, you know, a pretty violent, wild place in a lot of places. So I go there and I forget my tenant, either the place was I think the place was vacant, and this is like a place where like some crackhead, I'm not joking, like somebody stole the pipes out of my place, right? So like, and not only did they do it one time, they did it twice.
Really?
It happened twice in like 6 months. So anyway, so I'm there and I'm like checking on the place, and I see this dog in the neighbor's backyard, and it's this like kind of like big white short-haired dog. And this dog like looks sick, and like you could see its ribs. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, I don't know. So it's like, you know, it's none of my business, whatever. I go back there a couple days later, the dog is even thinner. And I'm like, I'm not dealing with this, right?
Yeah.
So like I found an Ethernet cable, because that's all I had.
Yeah.
I hopped the fence, put it around the dog's neck. I parked in the back alley. I put the Ethernet cable around the dog's neck as a leash, because I needed something, right?
Yeah.
And the dog was like pretty friendly. Like the dog was like starving and dehydrating, right? So I take the dog, put it in my car, take it home, feed this thing had not eaten in for I don't know how long, right? So then I take it to the SPCA, right? And they're like, "How did you get the dog?" And I like explain the situation. And like, well, they're like, had you had called us and we had come and saw the dog in this state, we could have like, you know, either arrested the owners or like taken the dog. Like they could have like voluntarily given the dog up. But they're like, but you basically stole the dog.
You kidnapped the dog.
And they're like, hopefully nothing happens, but like you could technically get in trouble for like stealing another person's dog. And I'm like, all right, I'll take that risk. The dog was like a day away from dehydrating and dying.
I took matters into my own hands.
Yeah, right.
It is what it is.
So they went and they knocked on the people's door, and they think the people willingly like relinquished the dog at that point. They kind of like said like, hey, somebody had taken the dog and notified us about it, and you know, were you willing to like sign the dog away? And they did. So
wow,
I was that dog's hero.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, man.
That's crazy. It's really a shame when you see. I've seen a lot of dogs that it's like that dog obviously lives outside. Like it has not seen the inside of a house in forever.
Or
you know?
I've been to places where the dog is in the basement with no light on.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
It's crazy, man.
Yep.
I've bought plenty of houses with dead cats. Never any dead dogs.
I've got dead cats. Yep.
Yeah, but we have one right around the corner that there was a room in the house that very clearly was where the dogs lived, and they didn't go outside, so they only just shit and peed in this room in the house for God knows how long. So yeah, it's
Dealing
shame.
with that too. I'm rehabbing a house that's like that, where the
Yep.
where there was the backyard is just like a little alley and no fenced in area. It was like a driveway, and you know, they just went in the house, man.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. But that being said, I am now, a lot of people get disgusted when they walk in the house and it smells like cat pee.
Yeah.
Man, I'm excited. That smells like money, dude.
Smells like money to me.
Smells
Yeah,
like money. Yep.
dude. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you do have to like rip out that flooring and stuff, even if it's hardwood. Like I did a house one time where we sanded the hardwoods and everything, and then restained and resealed. And like the first humid day, you could smell it again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We had to like rip it out and everything. It was not good. I guess it depends how bad it is and how long a cat was peeing in that same spot or whatever, right?
Do you find there's a difference between cat and dog pee?
Yeah, the cat pee's way worse.
Oh, the cat pee's way worse.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
to the story of Evan Zaremba,
Yeah.
how did you make your entry into the world of real estate?
Well, about 2007, I had come back from China, and I was there for a couple of years, and I had read, while I was over there, I read all the Rich Dad, Poor Dad books. And when I came back, I convinced my buddy who was my best friend from college to get into real estate. In fact, I had told him about it beforehand. So him and his buddy started getting into it, and then him and I partnered, and then we started getting into it.
Okay.
And this is back when you could use like a note from your mom to get a loan from a bank, like, so to speak. Like, they didn't have all the underwriting. This is before the whole '08 crash. This is in '07. This is the time where the market started to slow down and stared to have a little bit of setback. But it was like, we bought these. I remember the first two houses that we bought were in Chester. I was friends with this detective in Chester. He had bought houses at tax sales.
Okay.
You know, like 8 of them, and not that much. But he was because he had a house outside the city, but for work he lived in a duplex. He didn't care. He just very simple standard of living. He was a cool guy. He was an older guy. He was just trying to ride his time out, trying to get as much overtime as he could before he retired. Because what happens is your last so many years there, they pay you a percentage of your pension based on that.
Okay, got
so
it.
if your base salary is like 80 grand, but you do 20 grand extra in overtime, you make 100 grand. Your pension pay is I think 75% of that. I don't know. I'm just making up numbers, but so he was trying to. But anyway, so several times with him, I went around, not patrolling, but we did ride-alongs, throughout the city. And he's saying, this block's good, that block's not good, this block's okay. He's and
all the blocks that he said were not good were where you bought?
Well, no, not necessarily. He's just nah, it was, I bought these two houses, and he goes, who'd you say lived? I told him I bought them with tenants in there. He goes, who'd you say you bought that houses from? And I told him the guy. He goes, that guy just got out of prison for drug dealing. And I said, yeah, I know. He said he was out he was in for 5 years. And he goes, who'd you say his tenants were? He goes, and I told him the guy's name, and he goes, yeah, that guy's one of the biggest dealers on the east side. And I said, oh, okay. And he goes, look, it is what it is. He's I'm not going to do anything about
got
it
the money to
unless
pay
I
his rent.
have to. Well, the rent was $650. He called me up every. He was my best tenant. He called me up, dude. He was like, hey, Ev, come get your money, man. I got it for you. It was $650 in cash. It was all in 10s and 20s, and an occasion, 5s, and once in a while, a counterfeit 10.
Oh my God.
But dude, he was my best tenant. He was he never complained about anything. I never had to fix anything. He was just, and then his girlfriend called me one day, and she said, Ev, so-and-so got arrested, and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, we'll work it out. But anyway, so these two houses we bought for 30 grand each.
Wow.
And they were rented, which means they were semi-renovated. They were livable, for that. But when we bought them with a business line of credit for $120,000. So we bought them for $30,000. So it was $60,000 for the two places.
Yep.
But we had a $120,000 line of credit when we bought the place.
Huh.
That's how the bank structured the deal with us.
Huh.
So that way we could just they're saying, oh yeah, that they did a desktop appraisal, no hard appraisal. They're just yeah, I mean, this is
Here's the money.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, this bank's probably dealing with houses that are $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, and
Right.
businesses. They're like, I'm gonna give a shit about a $60,000 house.
That's crazy.
So, dude, these houses. So we had so we called the guy. So we had an extra $60,000 that we could use to buy other properties. It was like it was like a built-in burr almost,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, basically.
So we take the money and we bought 2 more places, and then we called them up, and then we were able to cash out refi. We got another appraisal. We bought other $30,000 houses, and that appraised for $65,000 or whatever they did, and then we cash out refied. And so we did that for a couple of years, and I forget how many units we had. It was not that many. It was maybe 12 or 14, somewhere around there. But it was
Okay.
a little portfolio.
Yeah.
And then the shit hit the fan. Then all of a sudden, it was 2009, 2010. They stopped lending. The bank stopped lending to us because of all the stuff that was going on back then. And And my partner and I, we decided to split because initially when I got in, because I was coming back from China, we both had good credit, but he also had a W-2 job.
Okay.
So he was able to, through his job and through his relationship with the bank and both of our credits, he was the one who was getting all the deals. Like he wasn't getting it. I was looking.
He looked really good on paper.
He looked really good on paper, so he was able to qualify us for all these loans. So, so fast forward to like 2010, like I think it was like July 2010. I was in over my head, and I defaulted on everything. I was like trying to like. I never like pulled money out of the business. I was always like trying to reinvest it back in, buy another houses, refi. But like I didn't know how to manage things. I got ripped off by a couple of contractors. I got people. I didn't like evict tenants quickly enough. Like I would, or when they did get out, the property would sit there for like a couple of months because I'm like I don't want to fucking go back down there and show the property. Like I was like kind of like depressed about it.
I totally get it.
You know, so it was like I was almost $1 million in debt at the time, right? And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to declare bankruptcy, and I'm gonna have to do this, and I'm gonna have to do that. And so I started to scramble, and I still had like good credit like the last month, and so I just kind of like maxed out all of my credit cards. And I tried to be cash heavy so that I can make settlements. And this is back when you could settle for like 20 cents on the dollar. And like, I kind of knew that. Like I had heard like you could settle for like 10, 20 cents on the dollar. And I was like, I'm just gonna have to fucking figure it out. Cause like these are banks, these are like big institutions. Not that I'm like proud of it, but it's like, these are their standards.
Yeah.
This is what you can do, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna have to default. I don't know what to do. I'm in over my head. I got to default. I got to figure it out. It's either that or declare bankruptcy. So I was able to settle on these things. Now those original 2 houses that we bought for $30,000 each, we owed $160,000, and ultimately on that on a line of credit on that. They went out. I told them we couldn't pay anymore, and I said, you know, we'll do a deed in lieu of foreclosure or what, a short sale, whatever. So I found a buyer for it for $25,000 for the 2 places.
Okay.
So one appraised at $11,000 and one appraised at $12,000, some like number like that. So the bank took $25,000 on $160,000.
Wow.
Like outstanding liability at the time. And dude, it was like, I didn't know what I was, you know, it was like kind of like scary and this and that. And I don't know what the hell's going on. And is the world going to end? And now we're in another time where it's like, is it going to happen again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's how I got into real estate. Oh, and then after that, I stopped doing real estate for like 6 years.
Okay.
Stopped doing real estate for 6 years.
Well, what happened with the rest of the portfolio? So that was the first asset that you kind of figured a way out of, but you still had a bunch more.
I defaulted. So a couple of them I had like 5 of them with a bank called Nova Savings Bank. They went under.
Okay.
And I just stopped paying. And I guess whoever bought the loan foreclosed on the properties.
Got it.
You know, I just kind of like let it go.
Yep.
And then there were a couple other ones, and I think I sold them. I sold them.
Got it.
And yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So then 6 years or so.
6 years later.
A hiatus.
6 years later.
What'd you do in that time frame?
So this is before OnlyFans. And no, I'm just kidding. I was in sales. So I did in-home sales. I sold security systems. I sold windows, roofing, and siding. And I was making like 6 figures doing that.
Okay.
Like so it was like, you know,
good money, yeah.
Decent good money and benefits and I used to call it part-time work, full-time pay, because you'd have like 1 or 2 appointments in the evening, maybe 1 appointment during the day, but usually like 1 or 2 appointments throughout the day. Each appointment is about 3 or 4 hours each. Okay. So but I averaged probably 1 appointment a day.
Got it.
Right. And so like sometimes I just, you know, I would do jujitsu, train jujitsu during the day, hang out, take a nap, screw around, go to an appointment at 6 o'clock, sell a $20,000 roof job or $10,000 window job, and make 10% of that.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
So I did that for about 6 years. After 6 years, I met somebody who was doing wholesaling. He knew somebody that I knew previously in the past, and they were like wholesaling together, and we were working for the same company, and he was like telling me about it. He's like, it sounded like he was doing wholesaling, and I had never done a wholesale deal. All I had done were these like stupid burrs, like stupid for me, like they were like not good situations. So he was wholesaling, and he was making like he's like, yeah, I just got a check for 27 grand. I'm like, that's a lot more than what I'm making here.
Real estate investors, if you're looking for your next deal, you need to check out revamp365.ai. Whether you're looking for a deal to flip or to rent, or even a deal to wholesale, we got you covered. You know what type of deals that you're looking for, so why are they always so hard to find? Well, to put it simply, traditional real estate marketplace platforms weren't built for you. They were built for homeowners. Revamp 365 was built by investors for investors. Build your buy box and instantly filter entire markets to find the precise properties that you're looking for. You can browse wholesale and MLS deals. You can run comps and access all data, even if you're not a licensed agent. If you are a licensed agent, you're going to close more deals because you can set up buy boxes for all of your investor clients. You can upload and sell your off-market deals. And most importantly, you're going to set deal alerts so you never miss a deal that matches your buying criteria. Look, you know that missing one deal in the investment world can cost you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But you probably don't have 80 hours a week to invest in underwriting every single deal that comes on the market to be able to see if it's a fit for you. This is your solution. Go to revamp365.ai/podcast today for a special lifetime offer that we're only making available here. Normally, plans are $100 or more per month. And if you ask any of our members that have closed 1, 2, or multiple deals, they'll all tell you the platform paid for itself for 20 years with the first deal that they did. So for a limited time, you can go to that link at revamp365.ai/podcast to get a lifetime offer to access this software, saving you a boatload of money, and even better, giving you opportunity to find your next deal today. But don't wait, we won't keep this available forever. Go check it out, revamp365.ai/podcast. That sounds pretty sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can I like team up with you? And he's like, at first he's like, well, I don't know, we'll see. And then like, he's like, well, if you start doing your own marketing and then like you, and you like come up with a couple of deals yourself, he's like, we'll show you how to close them. So I put out like a bunch of signs. And then at that point, he's like, you know what? We're just going to give you leads. Cause I guess he didn't want me to like, I guess he saw the potential, right? So he's like, you know what? You don't have to do any of your marketing. We're doing all the marketing. We're just going to give you leads. You go out and close them. So dude, that was even less work.
Really?
Because it
wasn't a 3 or 4 hour
dude,
appointment?
it was not a 4 hour dog and pony show. It was like, I'm calling this guy up. Hey, do you want to sell the property? These were incoming, this dude was sending out mailers. And this is at 2016, 2017, back when mailers were like working, right?
Yeah.
So like he's doing these mailers and getting incoming hot leads. And I'm like, hey, you want to sell? Yeah, okay, great. How much you want for the property? I'm like, okay, can you comp this? Yeah, and I get my guy to comp it. He would comp it. I'm like, okay, I'll be out. And I would still go out and do a, face-to-face appointment. Yep. And I'd be like, get it for X amount and make a chunk of that.
Ink the deal.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay.
So then I did that for several years. Once you start doing wholesaling, there comes a point where it's like, all right, it's like all I need to kind of do is figure out the marketing. The other stuff is like, you know, the hardest part is finding the deal.
It is.
You know what I mean? It's like if you can find a deal, buyers it's easy to sell it.
Totally agree.
And then it's not always easy to convey it, but if you have a good conveyancer or you're willing to do it yourself, then you can do that and then make a good chunk of change there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I did that a couple years. Then it was like 2020 and COVID. I'm like, let me see if I could flip. I'm like, let me try this flip thing out. Let me try. I'm like, all I'm doing is like wholesaling. I'm not keeping anything. I'm not building wealth. I'm not you know, it's like I'm making good money. I'm making more than I've ever made before, but I want to, you know, really
Have the other
have the other
aspects.
aspects of it, you know? So then I graduated from like wholesaling to flipping and rental properties too.
Was there like a big mental block for you going back into buying as opposed to wholesaling because of your past and like
I didn't
having
know
a bad experience in the previous crash?
Yeah. I didn't know how to like what contractors, because I mean, I had worked for a company that was charging $20,000 for a roof where people are charging $6,000 for it.
Right.
And they taught us like why you know, to sell the customer on like why they should go with the $20,000 as opposed to the $6,000 guy. Well, now it's like, all right, well, now that I'm like kind of
On the other end.
of it, I'm like, it's not necessarily, you know, there's different liability risks involved in it.
Of course.
But you can still get a good roof for less than $20,000. I'll say that.
100%, man. Yeah. I had a buddy, when I was flipping a lot of houses 5-6 years ago, and he knew that I was flipping a lot of houses and I had a lot of contractors and connections at the time. And one of the big window and siding companies door knocked him one night and he bought a $22,000 roof from them. And I was talking to him like a week later because he was kind of embarrassed to tell me. And I'm like, dude, that's fine if that's what you wanted to do, but you know that was like a $4,500 roof, right? And he's like, but they had financing. I'm like, I get it, man, but you could have financed it another way. You have a crap ton of equity in your house. You had options, you know, but hey, to each their own, right? There's different people that make different buying decisions for their own reasons. So cheers to them.
So I mean, I respect those companies, and they certainly have a way of justifying their price. I mean, they have a lot of overhead. There was like so they have canvassers, right, which are people, door knockers, right? They're called marketers. They don't even call them canvassers. They call them marketers. You're a marketer, and that kind of gives you a sense of responsibility, and as opposed to like, oh, I'm just some lowly door knocker, right? So they were very
There's some psychology behind it. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I got from working at these companies was the value of the language that you use, not only with your employees but also the customer, right? So like they would say, you know, things like don't ever say like sign the contract. Say, I need you to authorize this. Oh yeah, I need to authorize this. That's so even to this day, I'll say like, yeah, I just need you to authorize this here. You know?
Hey, there's certain things that you pick up on that, you know, if you made a slip up or you watch somebody else say that trigger word and see the body language and everything that happens as a result of it, it's like, oh man, there's really something to that, you know?
Even to today, I will always usually say the word property. I don't say home. I don't say house. I say property. I said, are you interested in selling the property? They may have lived there. Their grandma may have lived there. This may have been a home for them for 50 years. But now it's no longer, it's going from home to property. And a property is a transaction.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. How many other things do you think you really picked up from them as far as their sales process? Like, was there anything that translated over from those companies to real estate, like closing in person specifically?
Absolutely. I mean, so I think just there's a lot of companies, wholesale companies out there, and I was doing wholesaling for a long time, that will close the deal on the phone. And there's definitely an art to it, and there's definitely like a way of going about that. And if that's your model, right? But for me, the face-to-face thing, where like you can't get up and walk away. Like it's like people just don't do that unless you really piss them off.
And you're predisposed to it because you had success having 3 to 4 hour in-person closes.
So I'm just like used to that. I'm like people are like, yeah, I'm gonna close this over the phone, and we're gonna build this team. We're gonna do this. All right, well then you're gonna have the headache of all of that, and then that's fine. You know, if you like, I see it as more of like kind of like a headache. Than Because I don't know, can you sell a wholesale company? Like what is the end result, right?
Really.
You can't. No. So I mean, it's like you could sell your real estate portfolio. You could sell, if you had a cash flowing business, you could sell this. But I mean, I just don't. I've never even heard of a wholesale company being sold unless you're like at
a franchise,
some
or
kind of
something like that.
Right,
That's
right,
it. Yeah,
right. So, it all depends on how you're going to manage your time and manage the people that are around you. For me, it's like I'd rather go out. I get properties from wholesalers, from realtors, from private sellers, from people that I don't know, sending me deals all the time. Like every day I get them. I get emails from them. I get private messages. I get text messages from them. And that's because they know me as Flip Daddy.
That's
right?
it. That's it.
And I don't have to be like a national superstar. I just have to be
a local superstar.
Well, or just locally known enough to like, hey, I know this guy that's selling this property. Hold on, let me hit up Evan.
I'll tag Evan on this. Buys messed up properties.
Yeah. So
love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Me too, man. Like I am an in-person guy. Like I hate being on the phone. So it's super ironic that is the way that I built my wholesale company was phone sales. And we did we get most of our contracts over the phone prior to going on the appointment. But for me personally, like I'm not getting a contract over the phone. If I happen to be talking with a seller, I'm coming out and I'm meeting you.
Right.
But it was very hard to train and manage a sales team in that capacity for me anyway. I know a lot of other people that did grow and scale a in-person, close process. Cheers to them. I'm a little slow and a little dumb on some things, so it takes me a little while, but everybody has their own thing,
Yeah. I don't know. I read a book. Well, I listened to the audiobook.
Me too.
The Small and Mighty Investor. Did you ever hear of that?
No, I haven't.
A friend of mine told me about this book, The Small and Mighty Investor. And it was like how if you're in real estate investing, there typically tends to be this big push for more units, more doors, more units, more doors, more units. And he was giving multiple examples of people who, the bigger you get, obviously, the more of a management issue.
The more complexity.
Right. The more complexity, the more management, the more, like, do you have like a company culture? Do you have like all of these things that you have to, whereas if you have like, I don't know, let's say like 10 properties and they're pumping out and you're netting 10 grand, 12 grand a month.
Yep.
Right. And
let's say different.
It's much different. Right. And you can he was giving examples of people that they moved overseas or they're traveling here, they're traveling there, and they have very little management because they took the time to find good tenants. And I guess if there's ever any kind of turnover or issue, they can handle it remotely. But the key is to minimize the turnover.
Right.
I've had places that have been vacant for a while. I will wait until I find the right tenant. It's just because it's like, like certain areas I prefer Section 8 over others, but just because somebody's a Section 8, applicant doesn't mean I'm going to just automatically take them. Yeah, they got to be the right deal.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It all comes down to just making sure that you build your business intentionally for what it is that you desire. Because I talk about it all the time that so many people do chase more units, more employees, more doors, more this, more that. And it's like their initial goal was freedom anyway. And it's like, well, you're just locking yourself into more responsibility, more variables, more headache, and more things that you're just chained down to.
More and more debt and debt and debt, right? So you can use debt to buy other stuff and you can expand on that. But I mean, if you just, let's say you had 30 places, 30 units, and you had equity, and you did it over like 5 years or 10 years or something like that, and then all of a sudden you sold I don't know, half of that, right? Now you're down to 15, and now instead of being leveraged at 75%, well, now you're at 30%. Yep. Imagine if, or maybe you can pay off some of those places. Now your cash flow is probably the same.
Yep.
Now you don't necessarily have the asset anymore, but you also don't have the headache.
That's right.
Of that.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. I just think a lot of people are misguided because there's so much fake shit on the internet, right? And there's so many
is, yeah.
people that are claiming things that aren't real. And sometimes it's not even that the guru claiming things, they probably haven't realized that what they're doing is not going to work long term yet. You know what I mean?
It's not only that, it's also like people's misunderstandings of what the guru is doing. Because some of these gurus know what they're doing.
Totally agree.
But it's like you know, there's a difference between like a pro athlete going out and slam dunking a basketball, and then when you get on the court, you pull your hamstring when you start warming up.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
There's
it's
levels.
Like
there's levels.
There's levels to this stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So to that point, what is your take on mentors and coaches and stuff like that?
I absolutely would not be where I am without mentors and coaches. And the thing is, with mentors and coaches, you don't necessarily have to have one specific person or one person that you hire. You can have people that are your mentors or your coaches that don't even know it.
Dude, 100%. I
Right?
love that.
Right. And so it could be like somebody that you follow on social media. It could be a friend of yours that's at a different level, but you know that they're legit.
Yep.
Right. You know that they're not bullshit, and you're not necessarily a part of their, they might have, coaching or this or that. And it might not be for you, or it might be for you or whatever, but you don't necessarily have to be in that at this point, but you can still look up to them, and you can still take take their advice and take their examples.
Evan did this. I see that this is the type of finish he does in his kitchens, like pay attention and read between the lines is what you're saying.
Right.
I love that.
I mean, to me, it's all about changing your trajectory. So it's like Tony Robbins talks about this a lot, right? So he says there's a 2 millimeter difference on your face or your posture or whatever that will change how people perceive you and how you perceive yourself, right? So the one example that he gives is, so he talks about how like there's this like plastic surgeon, some of the best plastic surgeons in the world. All they do is they change 2 millimeters, right? And that can completely change somebody's face and how they look and this and that. But the other one is he talks about your body language and your posture. So he says, if your shoulders are down and your head is down and you're this and that, right? So, but where does that start from? Right here, where your sternum is, right? So he's like here, but if you go up a little bit, right, that changes this whole trajectory of your head. So he goes 2 millimeters goes from fuck me to fuck you.
Yeah.
Right?
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
So I see that as, getting, having mentors and having coaches and things like that who are going to help you change your trajectory to go to where you want to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
I love that. I've always been one of the first times that we probably bumped into each other was at Joe Evangelisti's at a 2-day, couple $1,000, I don't remember, like round table event. It's I love that stuff. I think one of the things, a lot of people just don't want to spend $1 on any sort of education anyway, which I think is a mistake.
Yep.
But the people that do for their first time, I think a lot of times they're looking for that magic pill, that magic bullet, and it doesn't exist. Like I go to a thing like that and I pick up, like you said, something that I can make a 2 millimeter shift in my business, in my life, in my posture.
Yeah.
And I know that is going to be massive for me if I actually fucking take action.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what it comes down to, is taking the action. It's just gathering the information to take the action.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's the key to a lot of stuff in life.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's why I am so adamant about teaching my kids how to read, because when you teach children how to read at a young age, when they get to school or when they get to wherever and they're at a reading level that's higher than everybody, that doesn't necessarily matter, right? You don't want to be like, you want to teach them to be humble too.
Sure.
But their comprehension and their awareness of things and their trajectory in life is completely different
That makes
than
sense.
somebody who's just learning how to read in kindergarten and just learning their alphabet and just learning how to read the words.
Yep.
Right. So if you're a parent out there and you have a kid that's under 5, read to them every night and start teaching them how to read. And all you got to do is just read to them.
I love
Right.
that.
That's it. Yeah.
And how old were your kids? Because I know you got them reading really, really young.
Yeah. My daughter was 8 months when I really first started putting effort into it. And my son was probably 6 months, 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. As soon as
That's
he could sit up on as soon as they could sit up and their head's not falling over, you know, a baby's head like bobbles around.
Yep.
As soon as they're strong enough to like hold their head up, and you sit them on your lap, then you just read with them.
And then with your daughter or your son, how old were they when they start, like, they read their first sentence?
Oh, my daughter.
Because that was young.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. My daughter was I don't know. I mean, dude, she was reading dozens and dozens of words when she was 15 months old.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And I have it on video too.
Yep.
So
Proof or it didn't happen.
yeah, I have it on video. It's
I
it's
know.
on my Instagram. And then my son, so my son, I take a little bit of a different approach. With my daughter, I was kind of like all in because she was my only kid and it was so important to me. And I didn't know, I always tried to make it fun, right? So I never wanted to push her. I never wanted to make it, you know, I always
Make it
wanted
not
to
fun.
make it not
Yeah,
fun, right?
yeah.
Because otherwise they're not going to like it. So I always did it, but I never like, it's not like we were doing this hours a day. It's just, but we were doing it multiple times a day. In the morning, I got her, right? So I got her, I gave her a bottle and she was already on my lap and I just, the books are right next to me.
Yep.
The bookcase is right next to me. So I'm reading like 2, 3, 4, 5. Next thing, you know, we're 20 minutes into it. It's like, okay, let's stop and go downstairs now and go do something different. But we've already read 6 to 10 kids books,
That's
right?
fantastic.
That's in the morning.
Yeah.
That's in the morning, right? And then if I don't do anything else for the day, that's okay.
The day was already a victory.
The day was already
Yeah.
victory. But before bed, same thing. Bottle. Now it's time to read again. Or read another 3 to 10 books or whatever it is.
I love that.
So if you let's just say I read 10 books a day to her. So that 10 books a day over a year, that's 3,650 books. Over 3 years, that's 10. And don't get me wrong, this is not 10,000 separate books. It's you know, maybe 1,000 books or 500 books that you've read 10 times or 20
Sure.
times or 30 times or whatever. Because of course we read the same book again and again and again. But it doesn't matter. That repetition. Now she learns the word. Now she learns how to pronounce this stuff. Now she learns the phonics behind it. So now she's 5. She's almost 5.5, and she's reading 100-page books. And this is ones without there's starting to be like pretty much no pictures in the books anymore. They're like, I don't know, probably third or fourth grade level books.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible, man.
So
What other values do you hope you're able to pass on to your kids? What matters to you and what do you think is important in raising a human?
I think raising your standard for when you are unsure. Well, a couple things here. So one is raising your standard. So we all have
Helping your kids to raise their standards, you mean, or you internally?
both.
Okay.
Both. So what I mean by raising a standard. So like before I got into wholesaling, if I ever flew, I would fly coach or economy or whatever it's called, right? And that's what I always looked for. Once I got into wholesaling and once I started making a little bit of money, my new I'm like, I'm flying first class. I don't give a shit if it costs $1,000 or whatever. Cause it's really like, all right, you're spending $400 or you're spending $1,000. Like, well, whatever.
Yep.
Right. You know what I mean? Not that that's not a significant amount of money, but it's like, it's not that I'm flying every single day. It's just, but when I do fly, I'm going to fly first class because I want that comfort. I want that leg room. I want the space, right? So that I raised my standard for that.
With yourself.
Yeah, with myself.
What do you think that does to you subconsciously?
I mean, it makes your self-esteem and brings up your self-esteem and your self-worth. Now, I could do other things too.
Of course.
right? There's negative aspects of it to it. It's not like, you could get cocky, you could get arrogant, you could be entitled, you could do all these types of things. And of course, I've had all of those thoughts too, but I recognize it.
That's right.
And I don't want to, want to moderate it, right?
Yep.
Remember, I'm just like everybody else, right? But I'm flying. I earn this money. I'm flying first class. Damn it!
I love that. I love that.
And eventually, I'm going to fly private.
Even better.
Yeah,
Even better.
If I ever fly.
I have
again.
adopted the same mindset for the last few years, but I have not, and my wife breaks my balls because I have not flown the whole family first class yet. So they're always like, you always fly first class everywhere you go, but you haven't flown the whole family first class. And I'm like, well, that's next level, And now we're talking $10,000 to fly. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I could see that because, if you have 3 kids. Yeah. So I mean, if you have 3 kids, and let's say you buy two, 3.
Private starts to look more reasonable at this point.
It does look. Oh yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. But I'm just saying, if you didn't want to dish out all that, you could just buy two rows of 3.
True.
You get an extra seat. All the kids sit in one row, and you and your wife, and then you get an extra seat.
I like that too.
Yeah.
I like that too.
So, the other value that I want my kids to learn is to see themselves. I don't even know if it's a value, but see yourself doing what you want to do. So using visualization and using I guess visualization to get what you want. There was this commercial. I don't know if you ever saw it. I think it was with Sabrina Williams, the tennis player.
Not familiar.
You know Sabrina Williams, right? The tennis player, or who are the two?
I'll have to Google her.
Okay. Well, anyway, they're like the 2 sisters that were top of the tennis ranks for so many years. I think it's Sabrina Williams. I don't know. I'm not a tennis fan, but so there's this commercial of her when she was a kid. I don't know how old she was. She was maybe 10 years old or something like that. And the coach is coaching her, and she's practicing her serves. And he goes, all right. He goes, I want you to throw the ball up and hit the ball and see yourself being the best server in the world. See yourself being the world champion. And I was like, oh my God. Imagine if somebody did that. Like, I didn't have anybody.
With everything that
like
they do.
I had good parents, right? But they never told me that.
Yeah.
Right? And you're planting that in that kid's head, and look what happened to her. Like, imagine if you just start telling your kids that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey,
I know her. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So she was a UFC. She came out when she was a judo Olympian, and then she went on to fight and like killed all these girls in the UFC until things changed. But she was a UFC champion, and she was on the top. But her dad died when she was 8 years old. But she said from like 4 to 8 years old, her dad used to tell her, he goes, I don't know. He goes, I don't know what, but you are going to be a world champion at something someday. And that's that she believed it.
Instilling that
confidence
and belief.
Yeah.
And to your point, visualization is huge,
right.
man. It's huge.
Right.
Huh. I like that.
Yeah. So imagine telling your kid that they're going to be a world champion. I'm just like I've started. I said it that I got to kind of figure out how to angle it in because I don't want them to have.
You don't want them to feel like they have to either.
Well, yeah, correct. I don't want them to feel like they have to, and I also don't want them to feel like an entitlement. And I don't want them to feel like they're better than what they are. In other words, oh yeah, you're the best at this when they're not.
Right.
When they're not, right? But I want them to think that they can be that. And the other day, I was with my daughter and we were getting ice cream, and she goes, and I go, you know what, sweetie? I don't know what, but you're gonna be a champion at something one day. She goes, oh, Daddy, I'm already a champion at eating ice cream.
Got you.
Oh my God.
Got you. And that's why you will get me ice cream whenever I want, Dad.
Right. I thought that was hilarious.
I got to be great at something. It happens to be ice cream. Keep it coming.
Right. Yeah.
That's hilarious, man. Some of them things when your kid surprises you and just throws one of them back at you, it's oh man, that was good. That was good. I can appreciate that. Yeah, man. It's interesting raising kids because, you know, there really is, I don't want to say there's no wrong advice, because there's certainly lots of wrong advice.
Right.
But there's no conclusive right advice. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. It's just kind of like a big blob of like, you can go this way, you can go that way, you can go this way. You know, you want to be on the right track.
Yeah.
You know, you want to be on the right trajectory, so to speak. Although there is, well, would you say there is no right? There's no conclusive.
No, I think there's a lot of wrong ways.
Right,
yeah.
right, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I would say there's probably no conclusive correct way
to raise your kids.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's hard because I would just default back to values. And that's why I asked the question about what values do you want to instill to your kids? Because I think as long as you set the proper foundation for them, whoever they become, they're going to become and do whatever it is that they want to do. So for me personally, it's like I just want them to have, you know, honesty should be important, you know, like being a good person and keeping true to your word, doing what you say you're going to do. Like if you just have a few simple, what I view as important characteristics in your life, I don't think there's a way to be a bad human. It doesn't matter what you do. It's like, if I raise good humans, I'm happy, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, and I think a lot of that stuff, you know, it's probably like the 10 Commandments or something like that. If you just kind of extrapolate from that, it's, you know, a lot of it's in there.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm not incredibly religious. I was
Neither
raised
am I.
going to Catholic school and everything up through 9th grade. Then I was alleviated from that school. They didn't think I fit in very well.
Did you get kicked out?
Yeah, I got kicked out. And then I went to Academy Park.
What'd you get kicked out for?
Being an asshole.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I was an asshole kid.
Yeah.
Mostly stupid stuff. Like they had crazy rules about, I had long hair as a kid and it couldn't be more than like 2 inches long. So I would always get in trouble for that. And then it would just kind of snowball. You know, it's like I got demerits or detention for having long hair. And then I didn't go to the detention. So then I would get suspended and it would just kind of spiral out of control stupidly like that.
Right.
They didn't want me there any longer. So
what
are you going to do?
So then you did something turn?
No, I've remained an asshole kid for quite a long time.
Yeah.
I went to public school and then I got kicked out of there my senior year also. So I am a high school dropout officially on paper.
Are you really? You never went to college?
Never went to college.
Did you get a good
I
enough
got a
diploma?
GED. Yep, got a GED.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that my now wife, I think she encouraged me to get it when we first met and started dating and everything when we were 19 years old or something like that. But no, dude, the changing point for me in my life from stop being a dumb asshole kid was when I got her pregnant at 20 years old and had our first daughter. That was kind of the turning point for me. Yeah, that kind of changes everything.
That'll do it.
You know, I didn't want to be a statistic, right? I didn't want to be the guy that got kicked out of school and couldn't provide for his family, right?
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah.
So,
did your parents provide for you?
Yeah, I grew up in a great family, great household. My parents
so you learned that from example.
Together.
That was an example,
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's where I was going with that. It's like we put our kids into the CCD, the prep programs, even though we're not overly religious, because I think that the values alone that programs like that teach, I think is very valuable, you know?
You know, there's a lot of like religious stuff. Like, so when I grew up, I did not, like my parents both went to church until, I think, you know, they were like senior year in high, you know, like once they got out of high school, they went to church all the time. They grew up religious. And then they didn't after, I guess, they went to college. So growing up, I never went to church other than Christmas and Easter, and they were only guilt trip visits.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, my mom wants me
Well,
to go to
especially as a
church.
kid, you never want to go to church.
Right,
No
right.
kid wants to go to church.
It was like, what am I doing here? I don't understand. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. And then that led to like a cynicism of how you view religion and how you view church and how you view religious people, at least from my end. And it wasn't until I was like 36, I think, probably. I listened to you ever hear of Bob Proctor?
Yeah.
Bob Proctor, he passed away a couple years ago. He lived to 86. He was like the one of the founding fathers, if you will, of like personal development, I guess you could say. That's how I would classify him. So he he said that God is kind of like blind people touching an elephant, meaning blind people touching an elephant. Some people touch. Oh, sorry. I guess. How did he say it? I'm kind of paraphrasing.
That's
but it's
okay.
Like, but
That's
it's
okay.
like people experience God in different ways, as
Okay.
if you were a blind person touching an elephant. So in other words, you can't see this elephant, and you don't know how big it is, and you don't know how powerful it is.
Mm-hmm.
You're just touching it,
Yeah.
right?
And it feels like a different
And
thing.
you
to
some
everyone.
people he goes, some people feel the tusks, some people feel the trunk, some people feel the tail or the leg or whatever, something like that. And that's how people experience God, because it is this thing that you can't really comprehend because you don't know, but you experience it
Yeah.
in a certain manner. And I thought that, and he also used to say, people would ask him questions at these seminars and things like, and they'd say, well, God was the ultimate, the best creation ever. And he said, no, God is the creator. He created everything. I guess if you look at it like that,
Yeah.
okay, from a big bang, let's say that they're right, that the universe is 13.8 billion years old, and it came from a singularity that was, whatever, and it exploded, and here we are 13.8 billion years later, and it's like an infinite universe, right? That's God, right?
Right.
And so here we are having our human experience. And I thought, like, what is like something that like people can create? Like, what's the most complicated thing that like somebody can create?
I guess we have to take that from a physical perspective, right? So I don't know, rocket ships.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
A rocket ship. Okay. Something like that. But let's just take something simple that like almost anybody can create, like a drawing.
Okay.
All right. So whether you're good at it or not, this is to say you make a bunch of stick figure drawings. Okay. So now you have these drawings that are 2-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have, and then you, well, okay, look at it like this. From the stick figures perspective that we know of, do they know anything about you?
Of course not.
Right. It's just a fucking stick figure on paper that you created. Now, let's say you rip it up. You're that stick figure's God.
Okay.
All right. So,
I'm tracking.
and whether it wasn't necessarily like an emotional thing or not, I mean, you just want to throw it out, or you're done with the paper, or it wasn't a very good drawing or whatever. So that's kind of like, that kind of happens to people, right?
True.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, you don't understand why, but that's just the way it is.
Why is it so hard for people to accept that things are the way they are?
Their expectation is not met. Yeah. You got to ask Jordan Peterson that one.
I thought you were him.
No.
Interesting.
I don't know. That's just kind of like how I look at it, is like, I used to be total atheist, right? Total like non-believer, cynical like, nihilistic, like there's no point. Like, what is the point? We're all just going to die anyway. But you can go that route, but you can also not go that route.
What changed for you?
Getting married and having kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why? Well, why do you think that made you change some internal beliefs that you had?
Before I didn't really have much responsibility. I was I was an asshole. I was I used to drink a lot, drink all the time. And it was a time where I was like experimenting with drugs and mostly like pot and stuff like that. But once you take on responsibility, that changes your trajectory. Yeah.
Changes everything.
Changes everything. It's like, now I'm responsible. I have a family I got to take care of. I have these little beings I have to take care of.
But how do you think that made you change some internal beliefs you had about religion or something like that?
Oh, those internal beliefs changed before I got married.
Oh, okay.
That was where I was like, I was probably just listening like in my car one day, like a Bob Proctor.
Okay.
Not DVD, like recording or whatever you call it. And that's when he said, people experience God like that, like blind people touching an elephant. That's when I was like, that makes sense to me. Growing up,
Got it.
no one taught me about God. All I know is
It's being shoved down your throat.
well, it wasn't even being shoved down my throat. It was just, I didn't have, I didn't really, like I said, I didn't go to church. My parents didn't really tell me about it. I didn't read the Bible. I didn't have like in-depth conversations. I mean, I probably did at a limited, with limited knowledge and things like that about that. But just that little like, okay, what it means is that you don't know what it really is, and you don't know how big it is, but it's there.
Right.
Right?
It's hard to have faith in something without having a reason to have faith in something.
Right. That elephant can crush you.
An elephant could definitely crush you.
Right?
Could definitely crush you.
If you start pulling on the tail too much,
Or he might just take a dump on you, which
he
is no
might
good
take a
either.
dump on you. That
no
happens
good.
too. Right.
It's no good.
Right.
Back to parenting real quick. Do
Yeah.
you hope that your kids take on like entrepreneurial tendencies?
Yes. Yeah. I don't want my kids working jobs like a W-2 job. I'll just say it right now. Now, if they do that, that's up to them. I probably don't want them going to college. Again, that's up to them. Like when you say that, then you always get like, somebody's like, oh, what if they want to go to college?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yep.
it's like, all right, well, you pay for it, asshole.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, then shut up. It's not your,
That's right.
Your opinion doesn't matter.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But like, I see the stuff that's going on in colleges now, and it's like, these kids can't even figure out what bathroom to use.
That's not something that I want my kids to even be associated with.
Right.
It gets tough, man. Like my daughter just went to middle school this year, 6th grade.
Yep.
And now she's going into 7th, which is crazy. But the entire motto for her school was pride. Like we went there on orientation day, and it's like everything is, pronouns and all this stuff. And my perspective, I'm going to get canceled on this one, but it's like there should be nothing that you're even talking about related to sexuality with fucking kids in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade anyway.
Right.
Remove the whole trans thing and that whole conversation.
Right.
They shouldn't be talking about sexuality at all.
Right.
Of course they're going through changes and puberty and all this stuff is happening and everything.
Yeah.
Give them till high school, They don't need to know about any of this stuff and have it shoved down their throat.
Right.
And putting that sort of confusion in a kid's mind, and this is going to sound real bad with this one, but like kind of reinforcing that thinking you are of a different gender is normal, that's messed up. And that's going to mess a lot of kids up. That's
Yes, it is.
not normal.
It's
and
not.
by the way, it's okay to not be normal. That's fine. But don't reinforce to kids that if you have these weird feelings that you don't understand, maybe you're a fucking woman.
Right.
No.
No.
And the same thing with little girls, right? Like my two oldest are girls. Like
Right.
you don't want them hearing, like, and especially my oldest, like she's very tomboyish.
Yeah.
You know? Don't want to put in her head, oh, well, maybe it's because you're a boy. It's like, no,
Yeah.
like you're just a little tomboyish. My wife says she grew up the same way. You know, she was very tomboyish. That doesn't mean that you're a dude.
Right. I mean, at that point, like I'm I might consider homeschooling.
Yeah.
You know, like
It's-
that's
it's
why
challenging, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my daughter's going into kindergarten this year. And I'm like, if they even if I can smell a pronoun nonsense or whatever, I'm like, we're homeschooling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's challenging.
It's just so weird. It's so weird. Like that these intellects are catering to such a small, minute percentage of the population and tiptoeing around it. Not tiptoeing. They're not tiptoeing around it. Like you have to tiptoe
They're
around
catering to
your
it.
your
Yeah.
opinion of it.
That's
if you
right.
if you have any
That's
kind
right.
of negative opinion of it.
Us even having this conversation, and by the way, for the record, we're not bashing anyone. It's like, but even having this conversation is
Right.
going to be considered offensive.
Good.
How is it though? How is it?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh well. All right, so back to some real estate stuff. So
Okay.
you have a bunch of flips going on right now.
yes. Yeah.
What do you think about the current state of the market, of the economy this Monday? Like the whole stock market thing, there's crazy shit happening.
Right.
What's your pulse on?
I mean, my, it's an election year, right? And I'm going to say the same thing I say that has been said before. Don't worry about who the president is. Be the president of yourself.
I love that.
So what I mean by that is, with all this stuff going on and what is the market going to do? And there's a stock market crash and this and that. Look, I got to worry about my stuff. I got to worry about like what I do for my flips and my rentals and my real estate business is not going to be the same that other people do.
Of course.
Right? It's going to be different. Like you just said earlier that you were starting to there was one you didn't want to wholesale. You wanted to keep it yourself.
Buying some more stuff.
That's your personal business. Like you got to mind your own business.
That's right.
Right? So I think that regardless of what is going on out there, other than like a real like tragedy or some like catastrophic
like Venezuela type of.
I really don't think any of that stuff matters. I think it's just noise.
Yeah.
It's just noise and distractions and that's how and that's why it's easier to succeed when you just don't focus on that stuff, when you just focus on yourself and you focus on your own business.
Totally.
Because everybody else is just like being their own worst enemy.
Yep.
And then like if you're my enemy,
What's in the
we're
news?
teaming
What's
up
in the headlines?
against you.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's right. That's right. But with all that being said, for
Yeah.
you personally, like
Yeah.
everything that's happening, all the changes, election year, all this stuff, it's not stopping you from being like, I'm going to buy a deal if it's a good deal.
Last year was the best year I've ever had financially. Like I got so far ahead last year, and this year is even going to be better.
I love it.
And that's with Weekend at Bernie's being the panderer in chief, right? Okay. And so like, yeah, so like, I might not like the guy, I might not like his policies, but like I've benefited during this time.
Yep.
And
You're making stuff happen.
Is that from him? Is that from me? Is that it's from me, but it's it's from everything. It's me utilizing the resources around me to do that kind of
Well,
stuff.
that's all that you can do.
That's all you can do. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Practice being resourceful. That's one thing that like I think I've always been good at. Like I make deals and I'm resourceful. Like if I have a problem, I'm pretty resourceful. I can't always fix everything, but like a lot of times I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got to like look and what the deal is. I got really good. That's when I used to do those, when I used to do in-home sales, right? And I was at somebody's house for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, sometimes 6 hours once in a while.
Wow.
Dude, it was just overcoming objections. You know, it's overcoming objections because you're trying to get somebody to buy $30,000 worth of home remodeling stuff and sell them on a payment plan. And like, that's the company model. That's what I was incentivized to do. Whether it's the right thing to do or not, that's, you know, kind of irrelevant. Like, I kind of look at it now. It's like, I don't know if that's like a good like thing. Like, you're kind of like getting people into debt, and they're like, oh, well, they got paid for it later, or now or later, and you want to make sure it gets done and whatever. That they've sold themselves on that, and
That's right.
that's fine. But like, I just got really, really good at overcoming objections and solving their problems. And it's like, okay, well, you know, if how can you afford this, and like, what is the actual issue? Because if it's not the price, then it's this and that, and you know, we can do this and we can do that. And the same thing with wholesaling too, because I was wholesaling for like 4 or 5 years, like just wholesaling, right? And it was, and like some of these transactions, like I didn't have a transaction coordinator. I was the transaction coordinator.
God bless you.
I was the acquisitions manager, sometimes the dispositions manager, and the transaction coordinator. So I'm the one who's tracking down the relative that doesn't even know about it to try and get them to sign off on the renunciation of rights and doing stuff like that. And, you know, hey, can you help us out? Sign this thing here, do this there, and go to the township. Hey, I need a UNO. We're closing today. I'm sorry. Can you help me out here? I just need a UNO.
Yep.
You know, or I need a tax cert today.
Yep.
You know? Yeah.
At no point did that like become overbearing for you, kind of wearing all of the hats?
Oh yeah, it did. Yeah, I hated wholesaling. I hated it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not like wholesaling. Yeah.
What was it that you hated
What's going
most
on
about
around
it?
here?
Yeah, they're coming for us.
Yeah,
man.
I guess so,
I
right?
swear, every single time
Yeah.
I'm doing a podcast, at least one comes by.
Yeah.
I got to finish the studio downstairs. What was it about wholesaling that you hated most?
So I hate to say this, but the sellers are typically in like not in good situation. They're behind on their taxes, you know, behind on their bills. Their house is disgusting. It's a probate situation. It's, you know, it's distressed people.
That's right.
And they're in distressed situations. So what that does is that has an effect on you. You know what I mean? Like their energy rubs off on your energy, and then it becomes this kind of like negative downward spiral as opposed to like a more uplifting. So like now that I'm more like flipping houses and doing rentals and things like that, like flipping houses, I like a lot more because I get a deal. I'll get a deal from a wholesaler.
That's right.
They
dealt with that
deal with all
entire
that.
emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They deal with that whole end of it. I'm just the end buyer. I buy the house, and the place is a dump. But guess what? The next day, it's cleaned out.
That's right.
The next day, it's paint. They prep the paint, and a week later, you know, it's all painted and the floor is done, and it's like you see the progress. Seeing progress is like so important.
Absolutely. It's really hard to see progress.
Yeah, progress is like even Tony Robbins has said, like progress is like the key to like fulfillment.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because as long as you're progressing towards your goal or something that you want, you will get more fulfillment and joy out of that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, man, it's really tough with, that's the thing. It is sad to even say it, that it's dealing with sellers in what we do is really challenging. And now a lot of it, I'm sure for you as well, there's at least a dozen sellers or properties that I can think about off the top of my head that it's like, yeah, the process was brutal of getting it done, but getting to the finish line and having a seller sit in our settlement table and just crying their eyes out, thanking us for getting them out of whatever situation they were in, that's incredibly rewarding. And if we're profitable on top of that, it's like, man, that's a grand slam. That's awesome. But you're right. It's really a struggle a lot of times.
Right.
And for whatever reason, we're dealing with more pre-foreclosures now than we have in the past. Some of it is due to just marketing strategies that we're employing now that we weren't in the past. But my point with that is, it is so common for people that are in pre-foreclosure, once they're like at the final days or months before the sheriff is, the sheriff sale is happening on their property.
Yeah.
They kind of still have their head buried in the sand, and they still haven't even accepted the reality of what's happening. And now it's like they're trying to shop around at the 11th hour. So we just had one. We just closed on it a few weeks ago, and we met with this seller probably about 2.5 months before the sheriff sale. And they took our offer and everything, and we're not ready to sign anything. They wanted to shop us around. They shopped us around for about a month, finally came back to us and said, we like your offer the best. We want to move forward with you.
Right.
And by this point, it's like the actual sheriff sale was only a month away. And dude, we couldn't get the payoff and everything from the foreclosure attorney. They actually sent us the payoff the day before the sheriff sale. And it's like, well, we can't line up the money and settle in 24 hours. That's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So we were able to get the sale postponed. Take a guess at how much. So the payoff was supposed to be about $180,000.
Okay.
Once we finally got it 24 hours before settlement.
Yeah.
We postponed the sheriff sale for 30 days.
Yeah.
So it went on the next month's list.
Yeah.
Guess how much their payoff went up in 30 days.
You're probably talking about attorney fees, getting their weaselly hands in there. So probably another 10 grand.
About $15,800.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now they're pissed off at us.
That's why you couldn't get it till the day before.
That's right.
Because some guy said, I don't care. And it's like, fuck, I got to do it. It's here. Boom, done. And then they looked at it again. They reviewed everything. They're like, oh shit, you know what? I forgot this time and this time and this bill and this bill and this, I spent 5 minutes here and 6 minutes there. Boom,
every minute.
15 grand. Yep. We didn't tally it up.
Yep.
And now they're pissed at you, right?
They're mad at us. And it's like, at the end of the day, if you signed the deal with us 6 weeks prior when we had first come out, you'd have an extra $16,000 in your pocket.
Yeah. So those are the types of people that you have to do probably a 2-hour dog and pony show for.
Right. That's right.
Like, and that sucks. But like, if that's the model that you want to do, that's what you got to do, because you have to go over those specific scenarios with them, and you have to paint the picture of like, this is what's going to happen if you don't do this now.
Yep.
And these are the benefits of you doing it now so that we can close it. Otherwise, this is what's going to happen. I've rarely done pre-foreclosures, but I've heard that they are the worst, because in terms of the sellers, like they're the worst sellers to deal with, because they're always in denial. They feel like, they don't accept it until the very last second. And then, you could work on, and these people might be like 6 months out from foreclosure, right? And it's like, they will just wait until the last second every single time. Yeah.
Yep.
And whatever. I mean,
they often ghost us and just don't send the docs that are necessary.
They're in denial.
And everything.
They still think they can keep their house.
And look, at the same time, I empathize with that. I understand. But guess what? You are hurting yourself, you know? Like, unfortunately, we probably need to change like our sales process on how we handle.
You close those on the phone?
Some yes, some in person. It depends.
Yeah,
the one that I'm talking about was in person.
Yeah, you got to get a really good, like, solid presentation and look them in the eye and say, like, this is the way it's going to be, and if you don't do this now,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
you got to.
Like, we've always
because if you paint the more you paint the picture of, these are your options, this is what I can do for you, this is how I can benefit you, I can solve all your problems today. Shit,
we have to do it. Yeah, it has to be like essentially a hard close. Like, it really does need to be.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say is, like, our process, if you will, has been, kind of explaining what I just went through with that story that just happened.
Yeah.
And basically kind of to alleviate some of the pressure, being like, hey, this is not like a sales strategy to kind of push you along, but I want you to be aware of what is likely to happen if you don't make a decision. I understand nobody likes being rushed into a decision.
Right.
But here's what could happen. And I think rather than kind of pussyfooting around it, like we probably do need to change that to this is what you have to do. Whether it's with me or the next guy, you have to do something now.
Right. Yeah.
So I know you end up generating a lot of leads, a lot of deals from social media, and you have a whole strategy around that. When did you kind of lean into and really see the benefit of doing what, I don't know, you're doing today as far as your social media stuff to intentionally generate leads, generate deals?
When did I see the benefit of that? I don't remember specifically, but I just know that I've written a lot of obnoxious things on social media enough to know what gets attention, and so rather than doing that all the time, if I just channel that to more like either adding value or some type of entertainment or lead generation, then that will help.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. But you're intentional about it though, right? Like when you are doing something on social media, it's like, well, I know that I have brought in a lot of deals from this in the past, so I need to make a post today on a group or like how's that process
so
work
the other
for
thing
you?
is just being consistent. Like most people are not consistent with it. You know what I mean? Boom. You know. Okay. So
raising my hand. That's me.
high five. Yeah.
Inconsistent.
So I mean, I see these people like there's just like Facebook group I'm in, and it has like almost 300,000 people, and it's just real estate. So it's like called Real Estate Mastermind, I think.
Oh yeah, it's like 4 agents, but you know we're all in it.
Yeah. And people are like, and I don't know if these are dummy posts or what, but people are like, how are you getting leads? Just wondering how to go about getting leads. I haven't really closed any deals lately, and I really need to close a deal, and not really sure what to do. And then everybody posts their thing below. Now I don't know if these are like spam bot posts, but I click on it to see if it's like a real person. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it looks suspicious. But dude, I look at their profile. Their profile pictures from like 2017 or 2020. Right. And there's like, and it's one. They don't have multiple pictures, right? And then like I'll see them like post a couple of things like about real estate or something, and it'll be like once every month or once every couple of months. It's like, dude, no wonder why you suck at it. You suck at this.
Yep. I see the post from time to time where it's like, I tried cold calling for my first time today.
For 2 hours.
I made 30 dials and everybody told me no.
Right.
What should I try now? It's like, try the same thing.
Try OnlyFans. That's what you should try. Okay. Or go get a job. Go be a bagger at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like, and this is what I tell people, like a lot of times, like people are like, for a newbie, what would you recommend? I recommend go get a job, right? Go get a job, right? Because let's face it, you're probably not going to make it in real estate. You're probably not, right? That's what I say.
I like that.
Am I a dick for saying it? You're goddamn right.
Probably, yes. But there is some truth to that. And on the other end of the spectrum, the people that have that kind of just roll off their back and they're like, oh, well, screw him, I'm going to do it anyway. They're the people that are probably going to make it anyway.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the person
a little bit of resilience.
I'm looking for the person who can handle the rejection and overcome the objection. Handle the rejection and overcome the rejection, or be persistent.
Prove me wrong.
And prove me wrong, right?
Yeah.
Right? So if you can't handle that rejection,
that's a great point.
For me telling you to go get a job, you should go get a job.
Yeah. No, dude, that's a great philosophy. Like, right. So I used to years ago, probably when I was doing more fix and flips. Yeah. I was way more active on social media than I am now. And I always used to be like,
it's easy to be, right? Because you're at a different house every
there's
day.
that. But the other point of it was I really liked kind of promoting everybody should be an entrepreneur. Everybody should be their own boss.
You're
everybody
you
should
build
be
up
in real
everybody
estate
out
because I wanted to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also realized through doing that I encouraged and inspired a few people to do something entrepreneurial that had no fucking right doing something entrepreneurial.
How dare you, Drew?
I know, but no, seriously, like,
And then they went
it really did make me feel bad, man.
Right.
It's like, man,
Right.
I inspired somebody that, and by the way, I'm never going to shit on somebody that doesn't have an entrepreneurial bone in their body, right? We need people that work W-2 jobs and are happy and comfortable doing that, right?
See, that's what I'd rather have.
What?
I'd rather have more people because right now there's an epidemic of unhappy workers out there.
True.
Most people hate their job, right? What do you think of when you have a job? I hate my job. I don't like
For
it.
most people, that's
Right?
probably their gut reaction
That's
to
their-
the word
yeah.
job.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when they go to work, they don't like their job. Like your job. Just change your attitude. Like your job from now on.
That's definitely
Right?
a step in the right direction. But there's probably something to be said about that too. Somebody that
Or
really
do a
doesn't
good
have an
job.
entrepreneurial bone in their body, that does something, fails, and goes back to their normal job, they probably have a higher level of appreciation for that job too. So maybe everybody should do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Be an entrepreneur?
Yeah. See what it's like.
No, not every. I mean, what is everybody be a solo entrepreneur?
Maybe.
No, we need employee. We need good employees.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
But when somebody goes out on their own and they crash and burn and they realize that that boss and that company that I've been all against and, you know, seemingly hating capitalism because the man is just out to screw me, maybe they would have a different perspective and a different philosophy on their entire.
But if they just didn't,
Rest
if
of
they just
their
had
work
that
life.
gratitude to begin with, they wouldn't.
But how? How does somebody have that gratitude without having
You got to flex
some
your
sort of-
gratitude muscle.
How do you think somebody does that without some sort of event in their life?
Well, I mean, there are people that are grateful, like when they're like they grow up learning how to be grateful.
Just thinking through that though, it's probably, I can speak for myself, like the times that I became most grateful came through a time of massive struggle or
Sure.
failure or tragedy or something like that.
Right.
Like, I think that's probably a hard thing to train. Or like to
Well-
instill upon somebody.
Well, okay, but you're talking about overcoming a harsh challenge or overcoming a challenge, right? In general, right? Of course,
Yeah.
when you overcome a hard challenge, you're going to feel good about it. But what about just like you go out to your car? Like, okay, so I took my car in for service the other day, and it said I need to get an oil change. So the guy's like, okay, well, we're going to run a multi-point inspection. I'm like, all right, here we go. So they run the multi-point inspection, and it's like, we got to do this and this and this. I'm like, just do it. Just do it. You know, I didn't give him a hard time. I'm like, all right, great, fine. You know what? Just do it. So they fix all this stuff on the car, and it was like $1,500, right? And so it wasn't like it was like a $200 this or that. It was $1,500.
Significant.
Yeah, and so whatever. Hey, I'm grateful for that. That's fine. I can be grateful for that. You know what? You fixed my like I had low brakes. I had this. I had that. I don't even know what the hell they did. I just checked yes to everything. So because I also had not been in a while, and so I hadn't done any maintenance on the
made
car.
sense,
So it
yeah.
was a maintenance thing, right? So you do that once every year or once every couple of years. It shouldn't be a big deal. So I was grateful for that. A couple of days later, I take my car and I go to Whole Foods, and I get out of Whole Foods, and it won't start.
No.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, I just took this to the dealership the other day. So I call up my wife, and she was there to get me within like 15 minutes. Dude, I was so grateful for that, right? And
That's
she
a
brought the
great way
kids
to-
along.
yeah.
And you know what else she said? And I thought, I just assumed it was the starter or something like that. She goes, you know what? I have a jumper cable, and I always carry jumper cables. She's like, I have jumper cables. You want to try and give it a jump? I'm like, yeah, I thought I was going to have to leave the damn thing there and have it towed.
Right.
Right. And it costs another $500 to tow the thing or whatever. So she's like, yeah, I have jumper cables. I'm like, okay. So I was able to jump the car and
Nice.
get it home. The next day, it didn't start at first, but then I cranked it and I was able to get it to start. So I was able to take it right to the dealership, and then the battery was lo and behold.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, you guys didn't. How come you didn't check this
So
on the
you did
first
this multi-point,
freaking point thing? So, but whatever, dude. I was just grateful. Like I didn't necessarily overcome any challenge, but I was just, hey, look, I had the resources and the network of. It went pretty smoothly, dude. I was on my way I was going to go to Whole Foods, and then I was going to go to jiu-jitsu after that. Right. And I'm like, and my wife, and I was like, shit, am I going to miss jiu-jitsu? I didn't want to miss jiu-jitsu. So my wife came and got me, took it home. I was still at jiu-jitsu in time. I was able to, because I used her car. I got home, and I was able to take my car. It was fine. Right.
A lot to be grateful for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And dude, that is such a massive thing that is very easy to, I don't know, like understate, that everything in life isn't about what happens to you. It's about how you react to what happens to you.
Yeah.
It's, there's so many different good examples that I would butcher, trying to come up with an example. But like, the two brothers that were raised the same way and had the same parents, and one ends up a drug addict and, living under a bridge, and the other is a successful millionaire. And you ask both of them why they are the way they are, and they say, because my father was an alcoholic. And it's like, they both internalize that totally differently, one productively and one destructively.
Right.
So yeah, man, that's huge. That's massive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. How did you get to that point to realize how important stuff like gratitude is? You mentioned Tony Robbins and some other.
I mean, I think just like, in general, just listening to podcasts about it and reading about it, and don't get me wrong, I'm not like an expert at it, but like, it is something that
you're aware
is
of.
on my awareness scale. I would say. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get pissed off about dumb stuff. I get upset about things. But then I think to myself, like, is it like people are going through much worse situations? That lady who almost got attacked by those dogs today, she probably lives on that block and might not have the easiest time, right? You know what I mean? So it's about putting things into perspective and having the realization that it's all relative. This is something I want to talk about. So this is something my father said to me when I was younger. He goes, Einstein said it's all relative. And what that means is that there's a relationship between two or more things, right? What is the relationship between two or more things? And then what is the relationship to other things to those things? So we're sitting here and we're not moving anywhere, right? But we're on the earth and it's spinning around the sun. So we are moving.
We are.
Right? But we don't feel it, right? And not only are we spinning around the sun is spinning around the galaxy. And the galaxy, who knows what the hell it's doing, and it's like hundreds of millions of light years and this and that. And it's like, oh, and what does that matter? That it probably doesn't really matter that there's a black hole out there or that there's this or there's that. But what matters is that your ability to embrace a different perspective, knowing that things are relative, right? And your ability to, I guess your ability to I'm kind of at a loss for words here. I'm gonna have to come back to that.
That's okay.
Because I'm kind of rambling on and on.
No. That's okay.
But it's your ability to realize that, I guess one thing, that it's not all about you, right? And that there's other things going on. And how do you perceive that?
Right.
And making the best of it.
That's right.
Right?
That's
right. It's like, oh my God, we're literally going almost 1,000,000 miles an hour through the galaxy. When you think about that, it's
my car breaking down really didn't matter that much.
Right. Yeah. My car broke down. How, like, I could have had it ruin my day, or I could just say, oh, other people have bad situations, or hey, I could just whatever. It broke down. No big deal. I'm just going to fix it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I find for me, like, I don't know, I think I am probably massively delusional on a lot of things, but I harness it in a very productive way, you know, and some of that means like knowing how to manipulate my own mind into being productive sometimes, or taking something that happens, to your point about gratitude and everything.
Yeah.
How can I take whatever happened to me and turn it into a fuel and not let it drag me down? Instead, use it to fuel me and build me up.
Okay.
So that's just one of the things that I've kind of always instinctively done. It wasn't something that I really think that I learned either. It was just, no matter what happens, I'm going to figure out how to use it as a fuel instead of let it hurt me. And of course, some things hurt, right? But
there's this guy I used to work with. He did in-home sales too, and he played in the NFL for a couple seasons, and he got injured, and then he couldn't continue. But he said there's two things you can control. You can control your attitude and your effort.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
So you can have a good attitude. You could have a shitty attitude. You know, you can put in a lot of effort or no effort. If you put in a lot of effort and you have a good attitude about it, you're going to go far.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's one of the things that I struggled with often too. Like when people would come to me and they're like, oh, I want to get into this real estate stuff. What should I do? How should I do it? And by the way, I have no knowledge, no experience, very little money, like basically nothing. And by the way, I also don't want to work too hard. It's like, I don't know how to help you, you know? And I can say without like feeling bad about it that me having any success in real estate was not because I was smart, not because I had a lot of money, not because I had a great like start and upbringing or anything like that. It was because I will work my ass off and I have the right attitude.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, so when people tell me that they want to be successful in anything, real estate or some other business venture, but their expectation is they don't want to work more than 10 hours a week, I'm like, I'm not your fucking guy. You know, I do know people that have, you know, built very successful things with probably still more than 10 hours a week, but they didn't grind their ass off for years on end. I grinded my ass off for years on end. So I am not the guy to help you do that, you know?
Right.
So don't be afraid of hard work though.
Yeah, don't be afraid of hard work. Yeah.
What is next for you? More flips, more rentals, any more wholesaling in the future?
All of that, all of the above for now. I mean, I think, you know, I have this flip thing down. I'm pretty good at it right now. I'm having a lot of success with it. So I'm going to stick with that. You know, like if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, I don't need to go out and get involved in this and that. If something's working, do it and do it again and again and again and again and get really good at it. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get better deals, more deals, you know, and it's just a matter of like finding deals.
Yeah.
You know, finding deals. And if I could find so many deals, then it's just finding another crew. Right. And if I find another crew, then I can do more flips and you know, like it's a matter of managing those things.
Is there like a numerical goal of this many flips per year, this many rentals per year, or is it more so like abstract, just progress?
I mean, I'd like to make $1 million in a year, like
net.
Yeah. That's my goal. Yeah. So
based off of track record,
yeah,
how many flips should that be at the price points that you're usually in?
If I did like probably 25 or 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
What are you on track right now to do for this year?
Ooh, trying to size me up.
Reverse engineer, baby.
I think I'm about, let's see, last year I did, I think 12. And this year I will do, I don't even know. Not quite double that, but maybe close to 20.
Okay. That's huge, man.
You know, it is, but it's like, this is another reason why I like flipping so much better is like wholesaling. You know, if you're going to make, I guess the average wholesale fee is 10 grand or whatever it is, or, you know, maybe some more.
That might be the average. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
the
not
average.
sure.
Your average is probably
I would be out of
25
business
grand.
if I was
You
10
probably,
grand. Yeah, I would be out of business.
Yeah. So, but like you have to do like so many deals, you know, you have to do like 4 deals a month. And that's hard to do if you're just a one-man show.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a one-man gang and you're out wholesaling.
It's easy to do that once a month out of the year, but it's hard to be consistent.
Yeah. Because there's delays, there's title delays, there's people that back out, there's things that, you know, all kinds of issues that come up. And whereas if you flip, once I buy the property, it's just a matter of now it's the race to finish.
The timeline.
Yeah, it's a timeline. Yep. It's like, okay, I gotta finish the property. I gotta stage it. I gotta get the stupid UNO. You know?
How do you really feel about UNOs?
Yeah, I got to do all these things, and then it's like, okay, now I gotta. It's like a race to get it to the market. Can I get that done in like 6 weeks? You know, 2 months. You know, like that's like probably about average for me.
I love that.
And then can I get a buyer the first open house? You know, when it like a lot of times that happens too.
Have you ran into the FHA like 3-month deal a lot?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, FHA stands for Fair Housing Act, and there's nothing fair about the Fair Housing Act. The government always dupes you in their stupid nomenclature for how they word these things to make you feel
it's not good for anyone.
All under the guise of safety and whatever. So so if you have a FHA buyer, or a lot of buyers out there, they're typically people that don't have much money to put down on a property. So it's anywhere from like 0 to 3% or 3.5%, something like that. And the reason why they do that is because they have certain FHA requirements for the standard of the house. So for example, if there's a roof leak or some other safety issue with the house and somebody gets hurt or the roof doesn't work anymore, they might stop paying the mortgage because they have to fix the roof, or they have to fix the safety issue, or they have to, you know, something like that. So they want to make sure that the house is in tip-top shape.
Habitable, yeah.
And that's
Makes
fine.
sense.
That makes sense. That's not my issue. My issue is you buy a house and within a month or two, I'm ready to flip it. Well, FHA says, "Oh no, you can't profit from that quickly.
Yep.
We want this to be fair, even though it's not fair. So you got to wait 90 days, and at some points, I think it was like 6 months. Was it ever 6 months?
I think it was. Yeah,
I think at one point it was like 6 months,
yeah.
and I don't even know if it was a year at one point. But like they changed their rules, right? So they changed the rules around, and they screw around with that manipulates the market and screws things up. So yeah, there's been a couple times where I've had to get 2 appraisals, and I've had to pay for one of them. But most of the time, that doesn't happen.
Okay.
I mean, I do get FHA buyers. I've closed with plenty of FHA buyers. Some of them were even in that time period. I don't know how they do it.
Hey, somebody's able to push it through. Cheers to them.
Yeah, I don't know what
Cheers to
happens on the back end, but whatever. I just want to get it to the settlement table.
But overall, it's like everything about flipping, you obviously like more than wholesaling, and that's where you see yourself spending all your time and effort.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah.
And then what about the tax liability of flipping?
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I hear that you get smoked on taxes when you flip houses.
You do. So, and I'm going to find that out for last year because I had an extension, so I'll find out what it's going to be. But I also purchased rentals last year.
Perfect. That's where I was going with that.
And some of the rentals that I purchased, I purchased a small apartment complex, and like that could have a huge offset for what my profits are. And I'm going to do the same thing this year. I'm going to make purchases for several rental properties that are going to offset significantly what my profits are. So I haven't had an enormous tax liability yet, but like I know a guy who's like he had to pay like 6 figures. He's like he had to sell a couple of his properties because because of that.
Yeah, it'd be no joke, right?
Yeah,
It'd be no joke. But I think that's the perfect marriage is flip houses and then buy rentals at the same time to offset some of that.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of the stuff that you're doing when you're buying rentals runs parallel to what you're doing with fix and flip, right? You're going to need to do some sort of rehab when you purchase or a turnover, and now you already have the manpower for it and everything. And, you know, there's some other advanced tax strategies that we won't get into on this pod.
Oh, really?
But,
You're going to have to tell me off there. Yeah.
No, but I mean, just cost segregation. There's other things that you can do that everybody knows about.
I talked to my CPA about cost segregation. He said it like wasn't worth it. I don't know. Maybe I need to talk to your
depends.
CPA.
Yeah. The simple answer is it depends. I have not done one at all.
Okay.
But I know a lot of guys that leverage them because of their income situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just depends. But you're kicking the can down the road. You know. It's
yeah,
not,
exactly. That's kind of what he was saying.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So continuing on, getting to $1 million a year net, building the rental portfolio in the process.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
If you were starting all over again in real estate today, what would you tell yourself?
I think learn how to analyze a deal quickly. That is that's one thing that eludes a lot of wholesalers is like, you know, can you figure out what a deal is? Because like some of these wholesalers, like it's like, you know, $100,000 purchase price, $100,000 rehab, $200,000 ARV. I'm like, what? Why don't I just buy a house for 200 and not deal with all the nonsense?
That's right.
I think deal analysis is probably one of the most important skills in real estate, in anything really.
It
right?
is.
So like,
if you don't buy right, it doesn't even matter if you have good contractors, you have good connections, good material suppliers, and can get stuff cheap. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because you already lost money.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It wouldn't be like one thing. Like, I guess like a couple things. Like, use your existing network and build relationships with people that you have. So when I bought my house, I bought a house like for myself, like a single family home, a few years ago. And when I bought it, the guy that I bought it from, I knew him from real estate. He owns a bunch of rental properties. He does flips. He does all kinds of stuff. And I said, hey, do you have like a plumber? Or I said, oh, you know what I said? I said, my hot water heater, like right after I bought the house, was like leaking. Like there was a couple issues. And I said, and I didn't bitch at him about it. I just said, hey, can I get the plumber who, like, do you have a contact with the plumber? I'll pay for it, whatever. So now I have his plumber contact, right? Now I have his HVAC contact.
Yep.
Right. And, you know, whatever else. It's like now it's like, oh, and suddenly, and it's not like I'm
that
like,
address book.
it's not like I'm like stealing the guys, but like, that's like these, like now the one guy does a lot of plumbing for me. Right. And I got it from that. And it wasn't even like any kind of like sneaky thing. It was just like, hey, I bought this house from you, a couple plumbing issues that your plumber that you hired did. Can I get his number?
Yep.
So now the guy probably still does plumbing for him. Now the guy does plumbing for me. So utilize your network. If you don't have a network, go to real estate meetings, go to REI. I used to go to these all the time when I was first starting out, and I still have contacts that I know from back then, right? And so that's one of the biggest ways where you can find contractors, private lenders, wholesalers, realtors, title companies. You can go to these meetings. You might not necessarily find them there your first day, but if you go and you're a regular at that meeting and you start chumming around with the old guys,
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know, and I'm talking about the old guys, the guys that got 50 plus rentals that have been doing this for 25 years. They will set you straight. They will, because a lot of these guys, they've made their money and they're just there for the social event.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They're just hanging out. So it's like,
it fires them up to inspire and share that wisdom with someone else.
Yeah. So you start talking to them and making contacts with them. They will put you in contact with contractors and private lending. They might lend you private money. They'll put you. They already have their existing network. All you got to do is like kind of just figure out what it is by asking them half the time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So so utilize your network. Learn how to market. Learn how to sell. And marketing is just getting attention. Hey, look at me, I buy houses. Learn how to do social media marketing. So post, like, that's like literally what, if you just are good at that and you have like a following or whatever, you can get bigger at that by doing that more. You don't have to do 20,000 mailers every single month. You don't have to cold call. All you got to do is go out and post some like content. And even if it sucks, even if it's free, bad, if you just do it consistently, then do it. Learn how to raise private money. That's like a more intermediate, advanced thing. I would say, but learn how to analyze a deal. So when you go to these events and when you go to these REI meetings and you're talking to these old guys and you've been posting consistently on Facebook and you've been doing some kind of marketing, whether it's bandit signs or door knocking or some low cost thing because you have no money and no skills and no this and no that. But you finally found a deal. You ask those guys, hey, listen, I found this guy. I talked to this guy. This is how much he wants for the property. You know, can you point me in the right direction?
I love that.
Yeah. If you're eager to do that work and you have a good attitude and you put in the effort, you will succeed.
Gonna make it.
Yeah. So that's what I would
advice.
tell myself. I would just do those things.
And
also be consistent and be persistent. Consistency beats talent. It beats, certainly a one-time effort. Like, if you read The Tortoise and the Hare, the tortoise wins every time, no matter how many times you read the book.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I'm sure you've read that book many times.
Yeah, right. Right.
You're an avid reader.
Right.
Last thing that I have to call you out on here because I know that you have a podcast and the world wants to know where it is, man. The world wants to know.
The world wants to know. Where's my podcast? It's coming out.
It's coming out.
Yeah.
It's coming out.
It's coming out. You can find me on all podcast channels, The Evan Zaremba Show. Yep.
Just on a waiting list. That's all.
Well, it'll be out soon. It'll be out.
All right. I like that. I like that. I had to call you out on that.
No worries.
Because you've had a few guests on your podcast that have asked me, hey, where's my podcast with Evan? I recorded that at your office like 3 months ago.
It's being edited.
It's being edited. Nah, man, that's perfect. But in all seriousness, I'm thankful that you came on. You're somebody that I admire in this industry and look up to what you've done and everything. And it's really cool to have you sharing your story and experience with everybody else.
Thank you. It's mutual. That, the admiration is mutual. And one thing that I didn't realize is how good of a guitarist you are.
Nah, man, that was all edited.
No, yeah, right.
That was real.
Yeah, next time you get your son out. Look, your son is adorable, but next time, just
kick him, right?
when he's taking a nap or like when he's out of the house or whatever. Just that was beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If anybody wants to reach out to you to sell you a deal, or anything,
hit me up on Facebook. Evan Zaremba on Facebook. Evan.Zaremba on Instagram. EvanBuysHouses.com. I'm in Delaware County, PA. You got any deals in Delco? Hit me up. If you want to lend some money, hit me up. This is not an offer or a solicitation.
I love it. Anything else you want to plug?
No, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Awesome.
Well, appreciate you, Evan.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh.